All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We are resuming our series of doing a deep dive, everything you need to know about the 2022-2023 Cleveland Cavaliers, man. I don't think I've made a Cavs video since the Donovan Mitchell trade on this channel. We talk about it on my Daily Live NBA show like all the freaking time. And we did a pretty deep dive on it yesterday, and it just kind of got me thinking, why don't we do the Cavs today? So if you guys are new here, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It is greatly appreciated. We are going to go ahead and pull up stat views first and foremost. Now, Cleveland last year, I made a bunch of videos on this team. Let's make sure we are running smoothly. Looks perfect. And yeah, I think we're like 6 out of 30. So we got a lot of catching up to do. If you guys enjoy these types of videos, you enjoy it, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. I said that twice in the first minute of the video. All right. Anyways, Cleveland. First off, I love Cleveland Cavaliers fans because they blessed me last season. They blessed me so nicely. I remember Nick and I were in Cabo, and the Cleveland they kept freaking winning, dude. It was like January or February. Cleveland just would not lose basketball games. And I remember we had the worst Wi-Fi. We were doing a golf balling trip, and we were in Cabo. And I remember like the Wi-Fi was just so bad. I had a connection in the bathroom, and I remember making a freaking Cavs video in the bathroom. This was a couple of months ago. So thankfully, we're not in the bathroom for today's video, but I watched so many Cleveland Cavaliers games last season, and I'm really anxious to get this video to a bunch of Cavs fans because I am dying to hear your guys' opinions on some of my opinions. So with Cleveland this past season, they were not the worst defense in the league. I guess offensive rating-wise, they were ranked 20th. Defensive rating, they were a phenomenal defensive team, which is something I am dying to talk about. Came in 7th, and unfortunately, the season was just completely derailed by injuries. That's really all that happened. It was completely derailed by injuries, and it was almost kind of similar to what Toronto dealt with. I mean, like last season, the year before that, where it was not like their whole team would get injured, and it was like, all right, the season's a wash. It would be, all right, Evan Mobley's out 4 to 6 weeks. All right, once he's fully healthy, all right, Jared Allen's out for a month. Jared Allen had that tough injury at the end of the season, did come back for the play-in, but they lost to Brooklyn, they lost to Atlanta, and those were two very tough games because, both games, Cleveland didn't really shoot that well, and they were very shorthanded. Ricky Rubio going down with a torn ACL halfway through the season. It was unfortunate, but it was still really refreshing. All right, this is a team that had the 3rd pick 2 years ago, and they were looking like they were about to have a top 6 seed in the playoffs this past season. They really were not that far away from it. What is that? How many games back were they? They were only a couple of games back from the 6th seed. So injuries derailed them. And anyways, let's just go ahead and pull up this depth chart because they made a big time trade going out there and getting Donovan Mitchell. I am a huge fan of this trade. Absolutely huge fan of this trade. Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton, brand new draft pick from this last year's class, Ochai Agbaji, and you had 3 first-round draft picks and you had 2 pick swaps for sending over to the Utah Jazz for Donovan Mitchell. So in this trade, it is a little like I am so glad they got the offensive firepower that they needed in Donovan Mitchell. Losing Lauri, Ochai, and Sexton definitely is tough. It's not ideal. This Cleveland team's a little bit deeper than a lot of guys are giving them credit for. So Donovan and DG are going to be one of the best offensive backcourts in the entire league this upcoming season. Where people have issues is their size. All right, DG, Donovan Mitchell, they're both not the tallest dudes in the world. So a lot of people are thinking this is something we heavily debated last night was, all right, let's say you're going up against Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Let's say you're going up against Kevin Durant, LeBron James. They're going to call for a switch. They're going to call for a pick, and they're going to get you switched onto them, and they're just going to shoot over you. Now, I really don't have concerns with it. We'll see what the starting lineup looks like. Losing Lauri sucks because he had 3 7-footers. You had 3 7-footers in your starting lineup, and it definitely complicates things a little bit. We saw a rumor about 2 weeks ago that Evan Mobley was getting some run at the 3. We'll see how that goes. All right, we'll see how that goes. I bet we see a little bit of it, but I don't think we'll see a lot of it unless it actually works, because Evan Mobley last season shot 25% from downtown. In his 1 year at USC, he shot 30% from downtown. Now, there was a month, third month into the season for Evan, he did shoot 35% from downtown. So there is a little bit of hope there, or there is hope there. There is hope there. We just want Mobley to get that number for the season from downtown, starting with a 3, because that is going to help spacing out a bunch. Now, defensively, Evan Mobley can do. This starting lineup has DG, Donovan Mitchell, Caris LeVert, Dean Wade, Evan Mobley. That's not what's going to happen. I would imagine we'll see Darius, Donovan, and this is where things get interesting. Isaac or Caris is my guess. And then you got Evan Mobley at the 4, Jared Allen at the 5. But, we're going to see a bunch of different creative lineups. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Kevin Love, Jared Allen type of lineup. Like, JB's going to get creative with it, is the way I'm looking at it. So now, I do want to say, actually, before we get any further, Caris LeVert started that last game for him. I don't think that they'll do it now that they have Mitchell, but let's just go through the players from here out. Darius Garland. All right, Darius, 3 seasons in the league. This past year, 22, 3-9. He's basically almost 40% shooter, 3-point shooter, 38% from downtown. DG, the PG, is a rising superstar. All right, and this is something Serial and I were really going. He was playing devil's advocate. I am very big on Darius. All right, the way I see it is he's the second shiftiest point guard in the entire NBA. Second. Who's number 1? Glad you asked. I think it's Kyrie Irving. And I think once Kyrie Irving, because he's getting up there in age, once Kyrie Irving either start, we see like a kind of sharp drop off, or once age kind of catches up to him, I truly believe Darius Garland will be the shiftiest point guard in the entire NBA. He's been in the league for 3 seasons, came into his rookie year, the year Colin Sexton was just dropping like 25 plus, and he had a really solid season, but we're talking, I can actually pull it up, I believe. 12 points, 11 points. What was his rookie season? 12.3 points per game. So next season, he kind of gets that point guard role, starts ball handling a lot more as kind of like your true point guard. He has a huge jump, 17.4 points per game. We see that assist number head up to 6. Still shooting really good from downtown. He's shooting 45% from the field. He's shooting 40% from downtown. Gets that all-star bid this past season, and this is where I think national media kind of fully grasp how good Darius Garland is and like how quickly he's ascending. I mean, he's super young, and this was just his 3rd season in the league. 21.6 points, got his assist number up to 8.5. I mean, Darius, in my mind, is, like I said, one of the rising superstars in our league. Now, Donovan Mitchell right there, you see 26, 4, and 5. I really don't have backcourt defensive concerns. I can understand why Cleveland, if you're thinking to yourself, all right, if we need 2 things, what would I target? I would target probably a backup wing or a backup guard. And we'll talk about the backup wing here in just a second, but Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland trying 100% on defense. Yes, you're still sometimes going to be shot over, but I don't know what it is. I think Donovan Mitchell, I know he's 6'1". Utah Jazz has had a horrible defense for the past 3 seasons. It's just very sharp fall-off decline for the Utah Jazz in general, as we just saw them blow it up, trading away Rudy Gobert, trading away Donovan Mitchell, getting all this young talent, all these young picks. I think a lot more of, and Mitchell's defensive rating wasn't even that bad. I think the hate or people calling Donovan Mitchell's defense bad, I think more so is on the Utah Jazz in general. It's kind of what I view like with the Minnesota Timberwolves 2 years ago, 3 seasons ago, where Karl Anthony Towns was basically just getting ripped to shreds on Twitter every single night because of his defense. When in reality, what it was Minnesota had 4 horrible defenders, or at least 3 horrible defenders out there on the court with him. Bad defending point guard, bad defending shooting guard, bad defending small forward. This is before like Ain't, and they're now they're like you could argue they're a finals contender, but basically with Minnesota, you just drive past their guard like with your first step, and then as the defense is collapsing, it's just kind of all on Karl Anthony Towns all night, all season. So I don't think Donovan Mitchell's defense is that bad. Now, where they ranked last year, offensively speaking, I think Donovan Mitchell was a money move. When we look at the 2 playing games specifically, especially that last game against Atlanta, what happened was Cleveland they started off hot. They were up, like, I believe, 36-25 after the first quarter, and then we saw like a 22 points scored in the second quarter, 22 points scored in the third quarter, and like 19 points scored in the fourth, something like that. They just weren't scoring. And Darius Garland had one of his rare off nights. He shot 11-27, which isn't the worst shooting night in the world, but they just needed more. They needed something else. Kevin Love, I believe, got like 10 minutes. Ricky Rubio was out with injury. Talk about Rubio in a second. Caris LeVert, we'll talk about Caris because it goes in hand. Caris is one of those players where I'm really rooting for him with Cleveland. I don't know if this is the best fit. If you look at it right here, he played 39 games with Indiana this past season. All right, he was averaging 18.6 a night. Season before, 18.5, 20.7, 18.7. Like, he's a scorer. He can get you a bucket. He's going to get you some assists. He's going to get you some rebounds. But he's going to get you some buckets. And when he got to Cleveland, it wasn't even – because if you're looking at these shooting stats, it's not like he shot that bad. 44% from the field, 31% from downtown. It's just both of those are around or slightly worse than his career average. But you saw a point drop off from 18.67 to 13.58. It never really felt like Caris LeVert clicked in Cleveland. It just never really felt like it was working. And I'm really hoping that it does this next season. But my money, if I had to put money on this, considering he's on an expiring contract for $18 million, if it's not working, I think he will be traded by the trade deadline. Because that is a very big salary to have, and that is a very talented player to have. And if it's not, like, paying off dividends, then there isn't – it's not like Caris LeVert with an $18 million contract. If you're trading him to a contender, it's not like you're going to get all, this huge-ass haul, but what you will get is enough. You will get enough value back for Caris LeVert in his $18 million contract if you trade him away to a contender at the end of the season. Or, maybe you attach a draft pick and trade him to a rebuilding team for somebody that they're trying to get off their books, whatever the case may be. Caris LeVert, his time in Cleveland, I think it's going to be limited. I think his days are numbered, but it's not that dire. If it works, it works. It's just that contract expiring year. Maybe they should have gone after Eric Gordon, but you would have had the same exact situation here. Eric Gordon's worth, I think, like $20 million this upcoming season. He's even older than Caris. So that's going to be interesting. I think Caris is going to come off of the bench. Like I said, I think you'll put in Isaac Accoro in at the small forward position. But it is interesting. I just really want Caris to work out because I don't know what it was. I don't have specific things he was doing or Cleveland was doing. It just wasn't working out. It just wasn't playing right. So we'll see what happens with Caris LeVert. At the power forward, we got Dean Wade, and I'm going to go ahead and lump Dean, Lamar, Jetty, and I'll sprinkle in Dylan Windler there on the impact that those 4 had last season, all season, but specifically when guys like Rubio went down for the season, you got like Brandon Goodwin starting some games for you last year. Cleveland was injured almost all year, or at least somebody was injured at every point in the season. And guys like Dean Wade, Lamar Stevens, Jetty Osman, sprinkle in Dylan Windler, those were the players to me that really kept it alive. There would be nights where Dean Wade would go off in the fourth, or Lamar Stevens, or Jetty Osman. I know Jetty gets his hate because of his inconsistency, but when he's on, and he's providing value. He's helping you get the win. So I just want to shout out those 4 players because when I hear people talk about do they have enough wing depth, I'm like, well, they have Dean Wade, Lamar Stevens, and Jetty Osman. So I think that's plenty of wing depth. And if need be, like I said with that Karis LeVert trade, if it's not working, it's not working. You're going to be able to figure something else out. You're going to be able to make some trades and figure something out. Evan Mobley, almost won Rookie of the Year, 15, 8, and 3. Kind of already briefly touched on him. To me, he just really needs to get a reliable three-point shot because reliable three-point shot and stay healthy. That's really it with Evan Mobley to me. Other than that, I think he's ascending to a superstar. 7-footer, 215, assuming he's putting on a lot of weight, assuming he's just hitting the gym, eating that good food, eating some steaks, eating some chicken. But 2.5 or 25% from downtown. But defensively, this man was an absolute menace. He had his moments. And with 69 games played, it's not even like he really dealt with injury issues. I remember he got injured fairly recently from the start of the season. And I think he was projected like 4 to 6 weeks. And I believe he came back in 2 to 3. So he's definitely a grinder. He's definitely a workhorse to me. I'm expecting Evan Mobley to get around 20 points per game and around 10 rebounds. He's also a very underrated passer. So Evan Mobley, rising superstar in my opinion. Ricky Rubio is so crucial to this team. I love that they got him back. Brandon Goodwin and Rajon Rondo did an okay job. They did all they could do last season once Rubio went down. Rubio's impact on this team, 13, 4, and 7. You kind of see it right there, but mainly on the defensive end as well. He was really solid defensively. He's going to make threes. He's going to get you a steal and a half per game. Ricky Rubio, to me, it might be one of the more underrated players in the NBA today. Like, he's had a phenomenal career. He's bounced around Minnesota, Utah, Phoenix, Minnesota, and right here in Cleveland, coming off of the bench, 28 and a half minutes per game once he comes back from his torn ACL, which will probably be somewhere around February. He's going to have a huge impact. And speaking of, he won't be back till February, let's talk about Raul Nato because he was one of their other moves before the Donovan Mitchell trade, him and Robin Lopez there. Raul Nato is a just really solid veteran player. Just a solid veteran player to have. 30 years old. This past season, he didn't shoot well from downtown, only 29% from 3. But if you look at his career, it's a career 37% three-point shooter. That's something Cleveland struggled with last year at times, was just consistent three-point shooting, consistent scoring, especially off of the bench. So Raul Nato, to me, that was a great just insurance signing because guys get injured. It's just something, it sucks, and it's something you don't want to like manifest, but at the same time, it just happens and you need to prepare for it. Isaac Accoro, another one of those just extremely promising young players to me. He's so promising. Isaac Accoro was huge for him. He'd have games where he'd put up 6 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, where you don't think he did too much. But if you watch the game, he was trying hard on defense all night, was clamping dudes up, was solid in transition. And even if he only scored 6 points, they were 6 vital points. And then every 3 or 4 games, he would either get hot from 3 or just get in his bag and put up 15, 16 points in that game. Was drafted early on. Really recently, this was only his 2nd season in the league. When I'm looking at Isaac Accoro, I'm not even looking at his stats. I really just am not looking at his stats. But this is a stat I would look at if I were to. 35% from downtown. 35% from downtown. If he is doing that, whether he's coming off of the bench or he is starting, he is going to provide value. And if you are a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Moving down the line, Jared Allen, all-star, baby. Jared Allen, the all-star, wearing some just super casual clothes. I absolutely loved it. He had one hell of a season, and I think he's really found his team in Cleveland. He did unfortunately get injured towards the end of the season, and that was one of the reasons you could probably, I don't want to say that because that's kind of blaming injuries or blaming, I don't want to blame injuries, but Jared Allen is cementing himself as another one of those, like he's 24 years old. He's 24 years old. He's cementing himself just like Darius Garland as, hey, I'm really good. He's been in the league for a couple of seasons, but hey, I'm really good. I'm really efficient. I can score. I can defend. I can rebound. I can do whatever you need me to do. And you're just going to see it again next season. So hopefully he can stay healthy as well. Kevin Love, gotta love K-Love. He did great in that game against Brooklyn in the first playing game. He's on a huge contract, but I don't know if the Kevin Love from 2020, 2021 was just super sad and depressing. This last year's Kevin Love was, first off, extremely healthy. He was lighting it up from downtown. He'd have games out of nowhere where we would just drop, 25 points. He dropped like 19, 18 points in the fourth quarter or at the end of the third or second half or what have you. Kevin Love, to me, though, 1 year after throwing chairs and just having these temper tantrums was, to me, he was kind of like the leader. Like he was like the leader for this team. He seemed like he had a real, I don't even want to say change of heart, but something was different last year with Kevin Love. He was smiley. He was happy. He was high-fiving everybody. Not that Kevin Love isn't that type of player, but it was just so crazy what we saw from him and those shenanigans just a season or 2 seasons ago. So I really hope Kevin Love stays on this team because he is very vital to him. I think he's just kind of that dude off of the bench, can provide a spark. There's just something about K-Love, man. He's the leader. Or I'm trying to think of the word. He's like the mentor. He's like the mentor. He's like the godfather. So K-Love, I believe this is the last year of his huge contract, $30 million, something like that. Hopefully he stays. I don't think they'd be able to find a trade suitor anyways. Robin Lopez, the last guy we'll talk about here. There are some enticing players down the line, but we're going to end it here with Robin Lopez. 34 years old. This is a guy who shot 33% from downtown last year, shot 33% from downtown with Milwaukee. So that's kind of cool as well. If Jared Allen were to unfortunately get injured or just needed some rest, Robin Lopez is definitely a guy I can rely and lean on just with his veteran expertise. So Cleveland, I'll look at this squad as a probably somewhere between 4 and 5 seed. I think that's fair to say. They could go higher. They could go lower, clearly. A lot of it will depend on health. A lot of it will depend on, is Isaac Accoro about to take that next jump? Is Evan Mobley going to take that next jump? How's Darius Garland looking? It's just going to depend on how the guys are playing. But for the grand scheme of things, you have Donovan Mitchell for several seasons. You have these guys. You have your young guys for several seasons. They're building something special. And we also now know that we kind of knew it already, but now especially that Cleveland is not afraid to make moves. I mean, we saw it when guys got injured. Ricky Rubio got injured. They were quick to go out there and sign Rajon Rondo. They're not afraid to make moves. And if something's not working, like I said, I expect Karras to be that guy who might have to get out of there, or Jetty, pair him with Karras. Whatever they got to do, they're going to do it. That's the way I see it. So let me know what you guys think about this Cleveland Cavaliers team down below. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as always, and I'll see you guys later.